Here we'll learn about facial innervation, both facial strength and sensation. We'll start with facial strength from cranial nerve 7. This is particularly useful in distinguishing a stroke from Bell's palsy. Let's start with normal facial innervation. Draw a face and show a normal forehead wrinkle and a volitional smile. Draw the bilateral cerebral hemispheres and indicate the region of the frontal lobes. Draw the pons. Show the upper and lower divisions of cranial nerve 7's nucleus. Show that both the right and left cerebral hemispheres project to the upper division of the left facial nucleus. Then show that the left cranial nerve 7 upper division projects to the left upper face to produce forehead wrinkle. Thus, the upper division has bilateral innervation. In contrast, show that only the contralateral, the right hemisphere, projects to the lower division of cranial nerve 7. Show that the lower division innervates the lower face to produce smile. So let's see how we can use this distinction in neurological localization. Begin with a stroke, an upper motor neuron lesion. Redraw the cerebral hemispheres, face, and upper and lower divisions of cranial nerve 7 in the pons. Show that there's loss of right hemispheric innervation to both the upper and lower divisions of the left facial nucleus from the stroke. Show that the left hemisphere, the ipsilateral hemisphere, still innervates the upper division. As a result, show that left upper face innervation is preserved, there's a normal wrinkle, but left lower innervations lost. Thus, in cerebral cortical injury, there's contralateral lower facial weakness with preserved upper facial strength. As a small clinical pearl, when there's facial weakness, the palpebral fissure on the weak side of the face will often be wider than the normal side. This can sometimes make the normal side actually look abnormal at rest. As well, laughter produces an involuntary smile that has dual innervation. So smile from laughter can be preserved after a stroke. Now a Bell's palsy, a lower motor neuron lesion. Redraw the cerebral hemispheres, face, and upper and lower divisions of cranial nerve 7 in the pons. Show preserved right hemispheric innervation to both the upper and lower divisions of the left facial nucleus. Show that the left hemisphere, the ipsilateral hemisphere, innervates the upper division, but show damage to the facial nucleus itself. Thus, there's a loss of forehead strength, a loss of wrinkle, and there's a loss of volitional smile on the left side of the face as well. In Bell's palsy, there's paralysis of the complete ipsilateral side of the face. Note that Bell's palsy can occur anywhere along the 7th cranial nerve, so the full clinical presentation of Bell's palsy depends on where it's affected. Now let's address facial sensation. Of note, in trigeminal neuralgia, patients experience lightning-like pain in specific distributions of the trigeminal nerve. To draw the somatotopic map of cranial nerve 5, draw the side of the face. Show that division 1, the ophthalmic division, lies superior and anterior to the side of the forehead, corner of the eye, and nose. Show that division 2, the maxillary division, lies superior to the corner of the mouth and below division 1. Essentially, it covers the cheek, the maxilla. And finally, show that division 3, the mandibular division, lies anterior to the tragus, the anterior aspect of the ear, and covers the chin. Essentially, the mandibular division covers the jaw. Importantly, division 3 covers neither the outer ear or the angle of the mandible. They'll be normal in an isolated peripheral trigeminal nerve injury. And also pay attention that its coverage extends posteriorly past the superior pole of the head. This concludes our diagram.